All right, so we've covered Jeffrey Marsh several times on this channel. For those of you that don't know, Jeffrey Marsh is a very, very popular, I'd want to say trans, but maybe non-binary TikToker who preaches like love and acceptance and all this stuff that you've come to expect from these sort of TikTokers. But I came across a thread on Twitter and a couple of videos that I thought were worth reacting to. And I want you to give me your thoughts on it because I definitely have my thoughts on it. So I'll play the two videos first, and then we're going to go through the screenshots. The screenshots were provided by an account called FreelyAshley92. So that's where I'm pulling these from. And I did some looking into it. It does strike me as a little bit weird, but I want to get your opinion on it because maybe I'm jumping the gun.
Your parents screwed up. It's okay to say so. That's why I made a Patreon, so that we could talk about it, so that we could connect in a way that has more privacy, so that we could talk to each other in a way that's more open and stuff that we wouldn't share like in the comments of a video like this. I think you're worthy and valuable, and I wanted to spend more connected time with you, healing together and hearing your deeply inspiring stories.
I don't even understand what he was getting at there.
So basically, he's got a Patreon. So you can watch videos of Jeffrey and you can connect with him behind a paywall where you wouldn't normally be able to get that content on Twitter or TikTok or whatever. So it's out of the public view, let's say, and it's behind a paywall. Now, the problem with this is that Jeffrey is 45 years old and has a very young audience and is saying to them, oh, I think you're valuable. I think you're wonderful. If you pay for my content, we can have conversations that nobody else can see. Your parents can't see. You telling a kid that, right? Because loads of kids, myself included, when I was growing up, I used to have fallouts with my parents all the time. I used to have fallouts with them all the time over the most benign, silly things. And children are very easy to manipulate. They're very, very easy to manipulate. So you're sitting there on camera going, I think you're wonderful. I think you're valuable. I want to connect with you more. Bruv, okay. No.
Well, okay. So let's look at it this way. Jeffrey has a platform. Jeffrey, yeah?
Jeffrey Marsh, yeah.
Jeffrey has a platform with, I'm assuming, a really big following. So if somebody with a big platform is trying to do something potentially to help and give back to people, why is that an issue?
You think he's trying to help to give back? You're telling these kids, these young adults, your parents messed up. We can talk without anybody looking and say things that you can't say in the comment section. What does that sound like? No,
I can understand that. But what it is that, number one, Jeffrey's probably looking at this as an opportunity to make money because a lot of people are going to give into it.
100%.
Number two, I just don't know what to refer to Jeffrey as, but if Jeffrey's had...
He's non-binary.
Say, you just said he's non-binary, but...
Okay, Jeffrey is like, non-binary.
If Jeffrey has had, say, maybe a bit of a tough upbringing, because Jeffrey's older and is at an age where probably when Jeffrey was younger, things weren't accepted and things like that, then maybe Jeffrey's at a point where Jeffrey wants to help other people who may have been had the same struggles.
Okay, let me ask you this. What do you think they're going to speak about that cannot be spoken about on TikTok, which already has a heap of degeneracy?
Because a lot of people aren't going to want to air their own business online.
Fair point. But I would say that...
And that's not a one-to-one conversation if you're doing things on TikTok, really.
Okay, now as far as I'm aware, Jeffrey is not a therapist.
No.
Not a licensed therapist.
Yes.
And you're talking to children, saying to them that we should talk in private. Now, if I had a kid and there was a 45-year-old on TikTok saying that I screwed up, but we can talk in private about intimate things and things we can't talk about in the comment section, I'm going to have a big problem with that.
Okay, but
you're a stranger to begin with. The fact that you're non-binary, trans or whatever that's not the problem here for me. You could be straight, you could be gay, I don't care. You're a 45-year-old with a very young audience talking about let's talk behind a paywall.
Yeah, but where are you getting this knowledge from that it's all kids, or it's going to be kids that Jeffrey's going to talk to.
Jeffrey has a very young audience, and if he's saying your parents screwed up.
Yeah, but I'm not young. Somebody could say to me, my parents screwed up.
Yeah, but we know Jeffrey's audience is very young because we know the people that are part of this like movement or this change in society is coming from the younger generation. It's not coming from the older generation. Although they are there, they're the ones that are influenced. There's an influx of young people that are going through these changes. Yes or no?
Yeah.
So it would stand to reason that his audience is going to be young. Even if I don't have exact numbers on how many young people are in his audience, I'm willing to bet that there is enough of them for parents to look sideways at something like that.
Made a Patreon so that we could talk about it, so that we could connect in a way that has more privacy, so that we could talk to each other in a way that's more open.
Sir? That's grooming. His whole TikTok is basically just, I know you better than anyone else in your life. You can trust me. I love you. And now he's quite literally trying to lure impressionable, young, vulnerable people off of TikTok onto a private platform that he can then have private, unbridled communications with them. Oh, and he wants them to pay for that. I don't know any grown adult who has an ounce of common sense that would watch that and go, yeah, good vibes, no red flags there. So he's trying to emotionally connect and gain the trust of vulnerable young people who already feel misrepresented, misunderstood, alienated perhaps, and wants to have conversations out of the public eye. It's textbook grooming.
I can understand the point of what's being addressed here, but the way I'm looking at it is he is looking at this with dollar signs as a way of making money off of vulnerable people. That's the way I'd look at it.
I mean, that is just as bad. If you're going to take people that already feel misrepresented and they already feel disenfranchised and take their pain and suffering and put it behind a paywall, that is also bad. I do think that's an element of it. I do think Jeffrey is well aware that he's going to make a lot of money, or they are going to make a lot of money. But I think the other side of it is that this is a 45-year-old trying to funnel young people from a public domain to a private one where nobody knows what the hell is going on. He can say whatever, they can say whatever they want without anybody really knowing what's going on, and they're paying you for it.
Yeah, I think that's the point as well, of being able to say what you want without anybody else being involved, because there probably potentially will be a lot of brainwashing and stuff going on, but I don't think it will necessarily be in a grooming way.
I mean, I can't assume anything because I haven't got any concrete proof, but it's a massive red flag either way. It's a massive red flag. If I found out that there was a 45, 50-year-old telling my kid to come off a public social media platform and enter a private room with them to have intimate discussions about all sorts of things, because Jeffrey's platform is about being non-conforming. It's about sex. It's about the LGBT community. I have to assume that what you're going to be talking about is going to be in relation to that. And I'm not sure that a lot of parents would be happy with a 45-year-old stranger talking to their children about that stuff. Whether or not those parents have failed is really besides the point here. You are a stranger. All of the people that I've ever gotten advice from on social media, David Goggins, Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, Derek from More Plates, More Dates, all of their information is readily available online for everyone to see because there's nothing nefarious about it. There's no reason why I would have to go behind a paywall. And if I had to see a therapist, then obviously you would go through the correct routes if you were going to go and see a clinical psychologist like Jordan Peterson. But he has a license to practice. He is a therapist by trade, right? Or a psychologist, one of them. And you're not. You're just not. You could be giving very, very harmful advice to these children. And the thing is that you can give it on TikTok where people can check you. People can check what you're saying and be like, that seems kind of off. But you're doing it when no one can see. And it's very easy to manipulate children into doing that, especially in this day and age where so many kids feel disenfranchised and so many kids are being funneled into ideas and movements that are going to be detrimental to them 10 years down the line. That's my problem with it. So Freely Ashley took some screenshots. She wrote, Jeffrey Marsh, a 45-year-old non-binary activist, has a Patreon so he can spend more connected time with young people in a private space. The perks include uncensored videos about topics he's not allowed to talk about on social media and private messages. There is no age restriction. No age restriction whatsoever. Topics include sex and sharing intimate details about Jeffrey Marsh's past. He is touted as an LGBTQ icon, has massive followings on TikTok and Instagram, and Dylan Mulvaney has referred to Marsh as his hero. So obviously we've covered Dylan on here before. You guys probably already know who that is. This man is using LGBTQ as a shield so he can connect with vulnerable young people. Common themes of his videos include attempting to relate to those with trauma and encouraging alienation from parents. Videos speaking out against him are regularly taken down whilst his remain up. I think that's a problem. You're not these people's parents. You're not a licensed therapist as far as I'm aware. You can't be doing these things. These are children. They're very, very easy to manipulate.
I think that's more so the biggest problem.
Whether they're kids.
Just the manipulation side of things.
Yeah, because if you take people that feel disenfranchised and you're saying, I love you, you're accepted here. Of course the kid's going to run over to you. They don't know where else to look. They're not privy to how the world works and how corrupt people can be. I really don't think, I'm not saying take Jeffrey Marsh off TikTok. I'm not saying take him off Instagram. I'm not saying do anything. I am saying to Jeffrey directly, I think it's a bit of a weird thing to do. I'm not accusing you of anything, but I don't think you should be surprised if people get annoyed by you putting videos up like that, telling their kids that you have failed them, but I'm going to save you. You're not a messiah. You don't have all the answers. You're not licensed to practice. There should be age restrictions at the very least if they're going to be topics surrounding sex. Some age restrictions. Even if you put out the legal age of consent, at least that. No age restrictions. How young are we talking here? I mean, kids get their parents' bank details all the time. I've heard of so many kids going on the PlayStation Network and buying FIFA points. You don't think they can do that on Patreon? Of course they can. This is not a good look as far as I'm concerned. This is not because Jeffrey is non-binary. It's not because people might see Jeffrey as trans or whatever. This could be a straight person doing that. If Cardi B was doing that, I'd say, what the hell are you doing? They're children. It's not your place. Leave it to the parents.